Okay, good evening, everyone. I think we will go ahead and get started. I just want to start by saying welcome to My Horse University and Extension's Horse Quest Live webcast titled College and Horses. Our presenter tonight is Dr. Kathy Anderson. She has been the Extension Horse Specialist at the University of Nebraska since 1991, and she oversees the Youth and Adult Extension Horse Program and teaches undergraduate courses in the Animal Science Department. Dr. Anderson currently teaches courses in horse management, equine reproduction, and equine nutrition, and additionally she has coached the UNL horse judging team. She received her Bachelor of Science in Animal Science and Agricultural Education from the University of Nebraska, Master's of Science in Physiology of Reproduction from Texas A&M University, and a PhD in Animal Science from Kansas State University. Please note that you can ask questions during the presentation using the chat box that many of you have already been using this evening, and we will probably go ahead and compile those questions and answer them at the end of the presentation during a Q&A. And we are also recording this presentation tonight, and we'll upload it to our website by the end of the week so you can review it anytime. And at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Dr. Anderson.
Okay, good evening. I hope everyone can hear me. And if not, if somebody would send us something in the chat box so we could see. And other than that, I appreciate all of you coming on tonight and taking some time out to hear this presentation about college and horses. I know it's something that a lot of folks are usually quite interested in. Kind of just depends a little bit on where they're at, either as a youth themselves or as they have some young folks. But it seems to be an area of quite a bit of interest and one that really has grown with interest over the last several years. Okay, a little bit about this subject and this topic, and it's been one that I've talked about before, and there usually is quite a bit of interest in it. You know, when you start to think about going to college, a person needs to think about some different things as far as what do they want to get out of it, why do they want to go there, you know, where might they go, and different ideas and things like that. What they want to get out of it, to me, is pretty important, especially when we know that college is not inexpensive. It's very time consuming and takes quite a bit to go there. And so you really want, as a youth or as a parent of a young person going to college, to be able to get the most out of your money and come out of it with a good thing. Some folks want to do positions solid in the horse industry. Others just want to be able to go and have some kind of contact with a horse while they're there. And so there's all kinds of different options, and it's a thing that a person really needs to think about. The where, I'm going to give you some different ideas of maybe some other ideas of places that you might can go. There's probably more options out around the country now to have a few classes in horses or big degrees in horses than what there were before. And so there are really quite a few more options out there. What we did here at UNL a year or so ago is we interviewed a variety of people really on this subject as far as going to college, something involved with horses and that. And so we're going to show you a few video clips as we go through the presentation. And so here we'll show this first one and really why do we think we need a college degree to work with horses.
UNL gave me the opportunity to diversify in so many different areas. Like, I wanted to do the business side, but I really enjoyed the animal science and the equine industry. So I was able to major in econ ag business and then get my minor in animal science, so I get the best of both worlds. And that was really one of the major draws to UNL and CASM especially, was because I could really diversify and I could do so much.
If you want to be a horse trainer, go to college first. That way you do have something to fall back on. I mean, if you get hurt in the horse industry as far as being a trainer, you know, you're kind of out for a while, and at least you have an education to back up on, or to use as your backup.
Why did you decide to go into a bachelor's degree program and then onto a master's degree versus some of the other avenues that you could have taken?
Ultimately, I wanted to go to veterinary school. I wanted to be an equine vet, and there are just, you know, things that happen. I'm not a good standardized test taker, so I can't get into vet school. So I had to find another avenue, another option. And for me, graduate school after my bachelor's degree was just the next the next best step, considering I couldn't go to vet school.
I came out of high school and went straight to the University of Nebraska. It was a wonderful place for me to do my undergraduate. I chose to do a 4-year degree as opposed to do 3 years and then leave, because truly I enjoyed the animal science department, and a lot of my higher animal science classes that I really wanted were towards the 3rd and 4th year, and I didn't want to cut that off early. I also thought it was important to me to have that Bachelor of Science degree just in case something went awry when I got to vet school, and then I had a degree to sort of back up if I needed to go out and do something different, if I found that vet school just wasn't for me and I wasn't going to be cut out to be a veterinarian. So those were a couple of the things that led me to that.
I certainly would say that my bachelor degree was a wise choice. I think it's simply the flexibility it gives you long-term career-wise. You never quite know. You can certainly have a sure idea in your mind of where you're going, but with your degree, if things don't quite work out the way or you decide to change course, essentially you leave very little ceiling above your head as far as how far you can go. And in most of the jobs that I have worked, my degree and my ability not only to do the hands-on and understand the hands-on, but to be able to speak well and write effectively have really been assets.
Okay, that one was about done, and I think we'll just go ahead and move on to the next slide, because that was just her little piece was just about finished there. Let's see. Okay, so when you're thinking about all these kinds of things, and I think that's a neat piece, because those are a variety of different people that have been involved in the industry and college in different levels. Actually, interesting enough, the last young lady was working at a semen processing center and has since gone back to vet school to be an equine veterinarian. So they all have different interesting stories. Okay, a little bit of why go to college. A person really needs to think and look about what their future plans are. Do they want to be a veterinarian? Do they want to be a horse trainer? Do they want to have some connection with horses, but maybe have a different type of job? So as a person getting out of high school, moving into college, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to really know what those future plans are. But to leave, really, I always say, somewhat of all of your options open. Think about the different types of earning potential. And for a person coming out of high school, and even I've had some college students say that, you know, money isn't everything, it's not what matters. And those of us that are adults certainly do know that a comfortable income certainly does make many things much easier. And so, you know, we have to look at and guide those folks to some degree. There are jobs in the horse industry that have a lot of that are very interesting and appealing to young people, but many people will tell you that maybe it's not the best career move, because there's some other types of things that a person could do in the industry that are a little bit more sustained and a little bit more have a little bit better future retirement plans or things like that with them. So it's important to think about all those kinds of things as a person is looking through what they might do. Employment opportunities is also very important, because once you go through school, you want to be able to go and use that degree, or at least move into some type of employment, some type of job. Many things change for folks over the years, and so you don't ever know for sure where you're going to end up from where you start. And I always use myself as an example, because I started as a home ec major and changed that quite quickly. And so you really don't know where you're going to go, and it's important to be able to be flexible and have a variety of kind of options open to you. In a broad sense, when you think of some different kinds of careers in the equine industry, I always categorize them both as a full-time types of jobs, supplementary types of jobs related to the horse industry, or even as a sideline and as a hobby. And people have to understand that really you can do things in all ways, shapes, and form and still have a very big hand in the horse industry. What we think of as the traditional full-time types of jobs are the horse trainers, the riding instructors, veterinarians, farriers. These are the ones that, you know, have a lot of visibility. At various times, many of us wanted to do these types of things and maybe over time realized we could still be very active in the horse industry, but have jobs that have just a little bit different kind of requirements, or maybe a different type of job security with them than some of these types of jobs. But they certainly are very popular, and a lot of folks look to be those kinds of careers. Then I categorize a group of jobs that really are full-time horse jobs as supportive. These might not be handling horses every single day, but you're dealing with things in the horse world every day. Things such as I do in education. There's been a really explosion of opportunities to teach at colleges at all different levels in the education side of it. Feed companies also have been very broad and do a lot of customer education. It's not just going around selling feed to everyone. There's a lot of producer education, a lot of research, a lot of things that go into these different kinds of careers within the feed industry. Extension, many of you are familiar with your extension educators or extension agents, and they might not have jobs that are 100% horses, but many of them can have jobs, if that's an area of specialty or interest to them, that they work quite closely with their horse projects or their horse industry in their state. Another example is the pharmaceutical world. Similar kind of thing. They'll call in veterinarians, they'll call in producers. Maybe they're in research, supportive, different kinds of things like that. And so those are just some examples of what you might consider as supportive types of careers in the horse industry. Then for many folks, they just might do a part-time or supplemental. They might be a breeder, they might have horses on the side that they show, that they compete on in all different kinds of events and all different types of things. And to me, these are kind of part-time supplemental. The horse is not their full-time livelihood. If they lost their horses today, they still have another job and career that probably is helping to supplement that part-time horse business. But sometimes this is a way that many folks have really found that they can really enjoy their horses, because they have their full-time job, then they come home and have their horses, either brood mares or ones that they ride. And if they work closely with a good tax consultant, many times they can incorporate these business entities as a business, and then it becomes much more affordable to have those horses. And if you can work with someone that's familiar with that, sometimes that's a good sideline that a person can use. So when you think back, okay, of going to college, and what is the really overall purpose of a college degree? And it's really this, where we look to have basically, let me get my pointer going here, there we go, to live a full, meaningful life by understanding the world in which you live, and to be able to acquire the knowledge and skills needed to obtain and maintain a meaningful career. You can certainly do that in the horse industry, and really, when you go to college, outside of being in a trade school, particularly if you go to a four-year institution to get a bachelor's degree, you really are not very often pigeonholed into one particular job. You really usually have a very wide variety of options open to you. That can be all or part horses if that's where your passion truly is. So here we'll try to get this one to play, and this is the second little video short that we have. As far as we interviewed various folks, what were some key decisions they had that influenced them on their future staying in the horse industry?
Coming up through the 4-H program and being involved in that, that was the first key decision to go to college and study equine science, or actually business option, but I've pretty much qualified for the equine science option also. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first kind of keynote decision that I made based on horses. And now going through the program here at UNL, I've decided that this is something that I really want to stay involved with, and so that's kind of pushed me into the career path that I'm heading towards now. So.
Has your interest and knowledge of horses influenced some of your key decisions that you've had in your life?
Oh, I would say that it's always been a factor as part of the background of how things have developed for me, both personally and professionally. Horses have just been a part of my life as long as I can remember, and they continue to be so today, and I hope that they continue to be that way for my children. At this point they seem to be, and I think, you know, my involvement with horses, not only as they pertain to just horses, a lot of it pertains to the people you meet as you participate in those activities, the people you see as mentors in your life, maybe people you look up to that set examples in terms of leadership, and their skills as they're out in the world doing what they do. And so that's what I look at the horse side of it, 4-H, and the university level of what I took away from it, in that it's really helped me shape a little bit about who I am, and some of the decisions I've made in my life professionally, you know, come back to that, just that experience and that background for being around some of those folks that were already in the horse industry or the equine side of it, that I've gotten to meet over the years.
You know, I think that I always want to continue, and I've always wanted to be involved in the horse industry, but I was worried about what we were just talking about. If that was the only thing I did, that it became a job and it lost its fun, it wasn't interesting for me. So I always wanted to find a way to stay involved in the horse industry but still have other facets of my life. So my decisions, you know, for graduate school, my decisions for jobs and those other things were all centered around how can I still have my fingers in the industry but not have it be the only thing that I do.
Hello, I'm sorry, I forgot to turn my sound on. Sorry. I just was mentioning who those individuals were that we did on the video. The gentleman is a former graduate, but he's very involved with high school rodeo and 4-H and heavily involved in the horse industry and is a banker. The last lady in red is heavily involved in dressage, but she got her master's in ruminant nutrition. And the first one was, at the time, a student here at UNL. So just a little bit about who those folks are. Okay, as a person is thinking about potentially going on to college, here's some things to think about and things to look at, all right? There are various types of degrees that are out there, and a person needs to think about what type of degree it is. If I can get my pointer going here. What type of a degree it is that they may want. I'm not getting there. Anyway, that's all right. There are different types of, you can have an equine concentrated degree. There are many more options for this now, where it might be a few institutions do offer an actual equine science degree. Many of them have the second option here, which is a degree in animal science with it, and then you can have an equine option within your degree in animal science. Others will just have courses within an animal science degree. They maybe don't have enough to have an equine option, or the degree plans are set up a little bit differently. You might have an institution that just have supportive equine classes. They'll have a variety of different kind of majors, and maybe you can take one or two or a few equine classes related to that major, or just have them as free electives. And then some of your equine specific types of courses. A little bit about the different types of degrees that a person might get. And if you've not been around the college thing, some of these might not be very familiar to you. So there are different schools that will offer 4-year, a bachelor's degree, and 2-year degrees. An associate's degree generally comes from a 2-year school. Sometimes you can move on to a 4-year institution from this. Associate's degree are very, usually have a lot of hands-on with them. They're usually highly popular. It has to be remembered, though, that there can be some limitations to an individual getting an associate's degree. Sometimes the option of moving on to more advanced schooling may or may not be there, depending on the type of degree or what they've gotten. Generally, if you go to a 4-year school, you have the option of attaining a bachelor's degree. Now, again, it might be in equine science, it might be in some other major with an emphasis in the horse area, minor in the horse area, or maybe just some schools, just some classes in the horse area. Then there are opportunities for certain schools to go on and do an advanced degree. which can be a master's, a PhD, or a doctor of veterinary medicine. And advanced degrees sometimes open more options to an individual. They are not as offered in as many places as some of the others, but it certainly is an option. If you want to be in many phases of education, to teach at a college or a two-year college, many times one of these advanced degrees is required. Naturally, to be a veterinarian, a DVM is required. And so there are options and there are potential of going on and doing some advanced degrees, even in the horse, certain careers in the horse industry. Okay, we've got 2 more video shorts that are within here. And this next one kind of talks about the individuals and some of the path that helped them lead them to where they happen to be now.
Can we begin just by having you tell us a little bit about what has
Looks like we might be having a little bit of trouble getting this one to
getting
play.
interested in horses? And
so in the essence of, it doesn't look like it wants to. Oh, here we go. Sorry, we're good.
Oh, that's actually my mom's fault, getting me involved in horses. My parents actually bought me a pony when I was little, and I started off doing the 4-H program, coming up that way, and further I got along, the more I liked it. We went up through the levels in 4-H. There's 4 levels there in Nebraska, and just really enjoyed it. Found it something that we could actually do, compete in, and really enjoy. Made a lot of friends that way, and the more we got into it, the more we decided, you know, there's career possibilities available there. And so when it came time to come to college, animal science is about the only way that I could go to keep horses involved. So that's where I went, and then started competing on the IHSA, the Intercollegiate Horse Association, once I got here. And things have just kept progressing since then.
You already talked a little bit about when you first developed an interest in going into the horse industry. And was it just one day it clicked and you just knew you were always going to work with horses, or how'd that kind of come about?
You know, I don't ever remember that day actually happening. I just remember thinking, oh, I have a pony and I never want him to go away. So there was never just one day like, you know, gee, this is going to be my future in what I want to do. But it's just always been there, and I've never remembered not having it there.
I was raised in a family that always had horses, and it was kind of a passion. Through the 4-H program, I really had a lot of opportunities to develop that and do a lot of the skill-a-thon activities. Things like hippology and horse judging and public speaking were really my area. I love to show and really be active in the knowledge and increasing that.
When I was very, very young, horses were a big part of my life, and so I had a huge passion for horses when I was little. And I would coerce my dad to saddle the horses up so I could go ride, and no matter what on the farm when we went to visit, we had to go ride the horses. So from a very young age, very interested in horses. Through my vet school career, I kind of, had an interest in horses, but yet I didn't know if that's really what I wanted to do or not. And then during my senior year of vet school, my instructors in the equine department were like, you know, you really need to go on and do an equine internship. You have a huge interest. You're very, very good at it. You're good with the students. We really think that you should go so that you can specialize a little bit more. And I guess that's really where I kind of got boosted into being an equine veterinary medicine.
I was raised in a family where neither my mother or father were familiar with horses or interested in them. I, from day one, was for some reason. So I spent a lot of time begging for a horse and threatening to run away from home if I didn't get one. But thanks to the help of 4-H volunteers and leaders, I was able to get a lot of hands-on experience and help with my riding. I spent all my 4-H years showing my horses, competing at local and state level shows, and building my experience there, in addition to gaining knowledge from the other activities offered through the 4-H program, including the public speaking, the demonstration, the horse judging contest, as well as the hippology and quiz bowl. I was involved in all those activities, just thirsting for more knowledge and more experience around horses.
Okay, moving on to the next. Okay, here we go. All right, So we talked a little bit about the differences of opportunities there between two-year schools and four-year schools, and a little bit how these folks have been interested in all of this. To tell you a little bit more specific, if you can't decide between if a four-year school is for you or a two-year school is for you, here's some things to think about where some of the differences are. Many of your two-year schools are really some of your community colleges. They might be a technical school. They might prepare you for something more specific, very specific. For example, many times a veterinary technician degree to become a veterinary tech is in a two-year school. So that's preparing a person for a very specific career, very specific trade. They can be what's considered a terminal degree. And that can be one of the limitations to that, in that if a person at some point in time chooses to go ahead and they think they might go on, they might have a few limitations, or things might not transfer in quite as broadly as what they had hoped for. Many of them have, it's been called the 2+2 program or something similar to that, where they are set up, a community college, a technical school, do have agreements with other institutions where they will set up programs and follow coursework that will easily allow a student to transfer from the two-year college into a four-year college. And we have many students that go and do this, and it is very beneficial for them. A real key for this is that a person either identifies that early on in their academic career as what they can, then they take correct classes and they are lined out much better to transfer into another institution. So it is something for a person to think about, and if there's even any indication that that's something that they may want to do, then they should probably look into a 2+2 program or whatever their school might have that would help them set up and be advised on the correct classes to take. As I mentioned, there might be some limitations. Some of your four-year schools will only take a certain number of certain types of classes. We've had students that had a lot of hours of a lot of hands-on types of things, and not necessarily all of those hours will get credit for when you transfer on to a different school. And so those are just some things to think about for a person that's attending a two-year school. A four-year school, this might be a university, a land grant. This might be a private college. There's various state colleges out there, but they will offer a four-year degree. Many times you will be getting some type of bachelor's degree from that four-year institution. This allows a person to have a very broad background, and also the number of potential careers is probably somewhat more broad. I have several students that come to the University of Nebraska that think they want to be either veterinarians or horse trainers, and for various reasons those choices really just do not work out for them. And so because they're getting the type of degree they do have a variety of other options. They still might be working in the horse industry, but not as specific as what they first intended to do. And so sometimes this is a better option for folks because they do have more flexibility. Also with these types of degrees, the advantage or the opportunity to move on to a master's degree, maybe take a few additional classes that were required for vet school, maybe move into a different type of business degree. So sometimes you have a little bit more flexibility with that type of degree than you did from a two-year school. However, a four-year school, a bachelor's degree, that's not for everyone. And so for folks just need to understand and realize that there are differences out there, but understand it and seek out what is different between those different institutions. I just pulled a few samples of some different institutions of four-year schools, two-year schools, and some do offer both of them. This is certainly not a list of all the schools. These were some that I just pulled off to give you a few examples of different schools across the United States. At Cal State at Fresno, they do offer a Bachelor's of Science in Animal Science with an equine option. So here their degree would be animal science, but they would have a concentrated course offerings in the equine area. Midway College, which is I believe a private or a small college in Kentucky, they do offer a bachelor's in equine studies or a bachelor's in equine business administration. So this is more of a business degree with a focus in the horse world. University of Arizona, one thing that they would offer is a racetrack industry program. So granted, they have animal science degrees and different kinds of degrees, but this was one that's kind of special to them, is the racetrack industry program. The University of Louisville in Kentucky also has an equine industry program and with business management. So that's an area that they specialize in. Also, the University of Maryland also has a degree that would be focused on equine business management. A few others, West Texas A&M would be a degree in animal science with a concentration in equine. That's another land-grant four-year institution. William Woods, which is in Missouri, and it's a private school, they have different bachelors of science, either in equine science and business administration. Another large land grant, the University of Georgia, which does have an animal science degree, but you could get a specific degree, a bachelor's of science in equine science. Oregon State, equine science. A new one, the University of Minnesota, within their animal science degree, now also offers an equine science minor. And here for my school at the University of Nebraska, your bachelor's is animal science with an equine science option. So I think if you got in and looked at many of these four-year schools, many of the coursework and degree plans that you would have are probably going to be somewhat similar. Just the outline degree, what it says is going to be a little bit different. But what you can do with many of those, depending on the concentration, is going to be pretty similar. There are some schools that you can take either a 2 or a 4-year degree, depending on how long you stay and what you do. Cazenovia College, which is a private college in New York, you can get a bachelor's of science in equine business, an associate's degree in horsemanship or stable farm management. Another small college in New Jersey, Centenary College. You can see here very similar to Cazenovia with a bachelor's in equine science and associates in equine science. So some of those schools are kind of interesting. Here's a few more that offer either a 2 or a 4-year degree, depending on what you take. What you would do, Michigan State, Johnson and Wales, Sul Ross in Texas. And so they do have some different options. And sometimes a person would start in a 2-year degree and then go ahead and choose to stay. Here's some institutions, some samples of some that have 2-year programs. Laramie County Community College out in Wyoming has had a program for quite a long time. It's associates in equine science or business and management. Another one in Wyoming of Northwest College, a similar type of thing. There's Ohio University. There are several others that are out there. Findlay College has had a program for a very long time. Additionally, here in Nebraska, we've got our Nebraska College of Technical Agriculture out in Curtis. And so there's a variety of additional programs out there, and don't think that this is a selective list. It's just a group that I came up with some ideas. A few 1-year schools, these would be very specific for very specific types of trades, you might say. Oklahoma Horseshoeing School for professional horseshoers. There is a program at North Central Texas College for equine breeding farm management. So those are one that are very specific. They might not even take a full year, but another example of what a person can get. So when you're shopping around and looking at different kinds of institutions, don't think that they're all created equal and don't think that they're all created the same. It's really important to get in and look and try to learn as much as you can about those institutions, and don't assume because one school has all of these hands-on classes or all these certain classes that they're all going to be the same, okay? Many will have a combination of lecture classes and hands-on classes. What they have will vary quite a bit between the staff and the facilities that they have, and a little bit of the focus of their program. And so that can be very important for a person to research and find out, to see if it matches up with their expectations and things that they want and things that they need, okay? Lecture classes can include things just as general horse management. They might have specific classes on equine nutrition, equine reproduction. Probably some of these have very more specific classes on different phases of horse management, of horse business entities. Judging and evaluation are also other classes that can fall into this lecture side of it. Hands-on classes, a lot of this is going to depend on their staff and their facilities to see if they have horses on hand, to see what they have. They might have classes in horsemanship or equitation, English, Western, both. Some have saddle seat. So you really need to research and find. Some might have flat classes, some might have fence classes, and don't think that they're all going to be the same. Some institutions do have breeding programs, and so they will offer hands-on classes in reproduction. For example, here at Nebraska, we have an equine reproduction course, but it's only a lecture course because we do not have access to brood mares and stallions. However, some other institutions, when I taught at Kansas State, we did have a hands-on reproduction course for undergraduates because we had a breeding farm, and so that was easy for us to teach. Some institutions will have courses in farrier science. My husband learned how to shoe horses and also still shoes our own horses today from what he learned as an undergraduate. So you just need to look and see what's out there and research the kind of courses that there might be. The co-curricular activities are something that are highly popular and can be a very big recruiter for an institution for youth to come there. And I'll talk a little bit more about these, but many a very highly popular activity now are the equestrian teams. I'll talk a little bit more about horse judging opportunities, rodeo clubs, rodeo teams. They might have a club of horseman association. Some have polo teams. Some also have dressage teams. And so there's a variety of those different kinds of opportunities out there, and they're all going to be handled a little bit different at the different institutions. So again, remember, don't think that every program is the same, and really investigate and learn as much as you can, okay? Equestrian teams, and I have down here either NCAA or Intercollegiate Horse Show Association. These are both equestrian teams or horsemanship teams. However, they are handled quite differently if you're on an NCAA team or an Intercollegiate Horse Show team. So if you're looking at an institution and you want to be part of the equestrian team, you really need to research as far as what type of team they have and what all of these types of things go along with it. What kind of selection process do you have? I have known students that have gone to other institutions with the intent of being on their horsemanship team, and it didn't work out. They never did make the team. So find out what the selection process is, and it's very different if it's NCAA versus Intercollegiate Horse Show. All right. What is the cost involved? Many of these, if it's NCAA, that's covered usually by the athletic department. If it's intercollegiate, then it is usually considered a club sport, and much of the cost is put off to the members that will do various fundraising, various types of things, and so that can be very different. The time commitment between these two entities, types of teams, is also very different. NCAA, you are considered a student athlete, and so they do have strict requirements on study halls, practice times, and things such as that, whereas the intercollegiate aspect of equestrian team can be handled quite a bit different, okay? Some will, most of the time anymore, they'll have a maximum of the roster. Some will field a hunt team, both on the flat and over fences. Some will field a western team. Some will field both. And so it's important to know those types of things. And if you're an incoming student, to have a pretty good idea what your options are, what your chances are of making a team. Equestrian teams are highly popular. They are a very fun thing, and a lot of people enjoy them. But just make sure that you've done your homework before you go, so you really know what you're getting into. As far as both of them, there are different levels of competition, both regionals and nationals, zone championships and nationals. And so it can take you quite far, and it can be a very enjoyable type thing to participate in with a lot of rewards. Horse judging. Many institutions do offer horse judging teams, and many of these activities are offered both at two-year colleges and four-year colleges, so they're not really specific to either one. I believe most likely NCAA equestrian teams are only going to be at your four-year institutions because of the nature of those. Horse judging teams, you find these spread across all kinds of institutions. You don't have to have horses, so sometimes they're a little bit easier and less cost prohibitive to put together. In general, there's contests in the spring, which the American Paint Horse Association puts on a contest, usually in April. The National Agricultural Teachers Association generally puts on a contest sometime in the spring. So those are some that some of these teams often frequent in the springtime. In the fall is really considered the big time judging season, and most of the teams will attend the judging contest at the All-American Quarter Horse Congress in October, the Quarter Horse World Show, which is in November. Some will go to the National Reining Horse Association contest. Others I don't have on here is there's a contest with the Arabian Nationals, and also generally there is one with the Morgan Nationals, and there's probably a few others that I don't have. But horse judging, again, is a very popular thing. There are some folks that will do horse judging and equestrian team. Generally, horse judging, you're a little bit more limited on how frequent you can compete in those contests. So there are some folks that are very interested that will do both, and I had 3 members of my collegiate team this year that were also members of the equestrian team at the same time. Now, I'm not sure where all of our listeners are from, but here in Nebraska, college rodeo is very large out in this region. And so I include a little bit about college rodeo because they do have regional and national competition. Funding, you need to investigate that because depending on the institution, depending on where they're at, there may or may not be scholarships available. Okay, some consider it just a club sport. Some it's considered some will fund it with scholarships and have it at a much higher level and have coaches in that. And so if a person's interested in college rodeo, just like the equestrian team, it's something to investigate what your various options are because, again, it's handled very differently at different institutions. But there are a lot of opportunities both at two-year schools and four-year schools to compete on a rodeo team. Some other things to me that are pretty important for a person to research and understand and know when you're looking around at different institutions and looking around at different colleges to see what your options are and to see what you're getting into. One thing is to look at the facilities. Some have very elaborate, very lovely facilities. I was in some different institutions in New York State this summer that were just incredible. And so some are very elaborate. Some have indoor arenas, some do not. Some have facilities for horses to ride and others do not. So look and see what the facilities are like. If you're in the cold climates, you know, what kind of indoor arenas do they have and how accessible are things. Also, what's the location of the facility in relation to campus and where the students are housed. Some they're very close proximity, some they're further out. And so if they're further out, you know, how do you get to and from the barn and those types of things. So look into some of those different things. Can you board your own horse? In some institutions, they have certain areas that they do board horses on campus, some do not. And so it can be a very, very nice thing to do if you have that option, but not every place is going to be able to have that option for you. And this one, it really is more important than a person thinks. How far is it from home? A youngster might be thinking, I'm going to get out of high school and I'm going to go as far away from home as I can. But, you know, at least within a day's drive, it's kind of nice to be able to have an option that you could go home once in a while. And so kind of consider some of those things also as far as the distance. And then what kind of scholarship opportunities are there? Do they have ones for the straight horse kids? Do they have ones for judging? Do they have ones for rodeo? Do they have ones for the equestrian team? Some do, some don't. And so some can be very worthwhile and some can be pretty limited. You really need to also check into tuition, all right? There are some opportunities for tuition waivers, but it can be very tremendously the cost of tuition between schools, both within a state and outside of a state. In-state tuition generally is going to be more affordable. However, if you're an out-of-state student, you look into different kinds of waivers. Every university is in need of students. Everyone is working to increase their enrollment. And so many are somewhat flexible or have programs or scholarships for out-of-state students to waive tuition so they pay in-state tuition and different opportunities like that. So investigate all those kinds of options. Lab fees, all right? This can vary tremendously and the horses cost a lot for them to be used within those classes. So oftentimes many schools, the way they offset some of the costs, their care costs for those horses is to be with lab fees. And I've seen lab fees as low as $80 up to $250 and more for some of the equitation classes and riding classes. And so it might say, oh, well, I can go and I can ride in this class and this class and this class, and then you realize what the lab fees are for those classes. And so it might become a little bit more cost prohibitive. For example, here at UNL, back when I started, our lab fee was a mere $40. Now in each of our equitation classes, it's between $80 and $100, which still, if you look at having lessons over the course of the semester, that still is not very expensive, but it's something that you need to look and factor into all the different kinds of costs that might be associated with going to college and those types of things. All right, a few other things to consider is look at the faculty, okay? How do they match up with you? What is their level of interest or area of interest? You know, if you're strong into rodeo and you go to school that they mainly do hunters and jumpers, does that really match up with you, okay? What's their area of specialty? You know, are they doing the kinds of things that you're particularly interested in? I think this is important. What kind of industry reputation do they have, and how much do they participate in their industry? Do they, do they judge shows? Do they show horses? Are they working in it? Because part of it is you want to be well-rounded and you want to have a degree that comes from a good area. And so a little bit the people that you're going to be working under, to me, is important. So investigate who those faculty are and what kind of experience in those types of things that they have. Some of the things of looking at a four-year degree that you might notice, and many of this is going to be quite similar across different, all of them with a four-year degree. It's going to be much beyond just your horse classes, because they will all have various departmental requirements and then requirements that the college requires them to have in natural sciences, math, communications, humanities, social sciences. We have an area, experiential learning, which is a lot of hands-on types of things. And then you always will have different free electives. And so look at those different kinds of requirements. And I think what you will find is across many of the four-year schools, some of those are not going to be that different. Equine courses, look to see what those are, and equitation, judging, evaluation, introductory horse classes, management. Look to see what they actually have, because they're not all going to be created the same. Here's some different examples, and I've kind of mentioned these previously, of nutrition and reproduction. Some of these will be highly hands-on, some will be primarily lecture. Management, we had one that was called a practicums class, which was hands-on of doing a variety of horse management types of things, but we did not ride. So we wrapped tails, and we did learn to do vaccinations, and we did show prep and a variety of things like that. A horse industry study tour is always a very popular one also, where students might take a tour of a variety of horse farms and learn more about the industry. So look at those different kinds of things and see what they have. Experiential learning is something that we have here that gives the undergraduates opportunities to maybe do some research, help teach different classes as far as the equitation classes and different classes, and get course credit as far as gain experience in some of the teaching kinds of experiences, as they will help the regular instructor teach with some of those classes. So see if there's different kinds of opportunities like that, because those help a person find what they want to do. They also look good on a resume and do give you some good kinds of experiences. We also offer some folks experience in extension, and they can work on different kinds of things in extension programs. Also, internships are very, very good. There's a variety of them out there that a person can look into. Many folks will go to the Kentucky Equine Management Internship Program, which is housed in Lexington at various horse farms. There are different breed associations, such as the Quarter Horse and the Paint Horse Department, or Paint Horse Association, that have different kinds of internships. There's tremendous number of breeding farms, trainers, nutrition companies, other schools and things that offer different kinds of internships. And those are one excellent way for a person to really get in and find out what areas are they truly interested in. It can help weed out jobs that you do and you don't want to have. I've had several students that have gone to the Kentucky Equine Management Internship Program and basically never came back. They went there from Nebraska and they found different jobs, different positions, things that they were interested in, and they still are there today. So it's been a very good type of thing. When a person with their animal science classes, I think I mentioned this before, and this can be vary between your different institutions. They might have a minor in animal science. They might use it within their animal science major. Some institutions, such as Minnesota, offers a minor. Some of them will just offer them as free electives. We do have several students that will take the class, and they might be in teachers college or business college or different kinds of things such as that, and go ahead and choose to take an animal science class and then get some different kinds of experiences that way. Okay, here's the last video segment that we're going to show as far as what some of the different kinds of opportunities are. And these are some folks that are heavily involved in the horse industry and are going to share some of their thoughts and all about what kind of opportunities a person might have to work within the industry.
Sometimes we have to use other methods to get that career path, and we might have to get into a little bit of agribusiness to provide the means to the end. But there's lots more to exhibit to the horse industry than just putting that saddle on. I think there are courses right now at UNL that offer nutritional aspect of raising horses, breeding, health and safety of the animal, and I'd start them right down the road to come to UNL and perhaps even just talk to you about the aspects of getting a major in equine science. Now, you couldn't do that when I was there, but now this is an opportunity for people to get a degree in equine science. Maybe they want a little business on the side or a little production on the side, but if somebody believes in the horse industry, there's more opportunity today than there's ever been.
You know, you've got your breeding operations that you could go work at, of course, be a veterinarian, that type of thing. You'd probably make a little more money. The horse trainer deal is pretty tough. If you have the talent, it can be real good to you, but it's real competitive, and it's a tough one to get to the top of that heap, but it's a lot of fun. So if you're not real worried about money, you can have an awful good life. Just, you know, you'll make a living and have a lot of fun doing that. The horseshoeing, kind of the same deal. It's there's about as many ways to do it as you want to do.
So if a kid says, I want to go down the road and I want to train horses, you know, and they can ride, they've done a little bit, what would you suggest that they do, you know, to kind of try to be successful that route?
Oh, I think probably the best way is to go work for some of the known trainers for a little while. You've got to have good ability, but you've also got to develop your people skills, and you've got to get you've got to kind of be known and have people know you to make it really successful. So if you can kind of ride somebody else's coattails for a little while until you get your deal going, it's an easier way in.
I really believe that a four-year degree is truly hugely important. I don't care what you're going to do. The most successful trainers that I know, the most successful breeders that I know, all have an education. I mean, you have to go out and get your education because you need to have that kind of provides you with a well-rounded look at what the economy is, what the marketplace is like, what your industry is like. You're not going to get that same level of confidence in your ability to perform if you don't have the education. So I would suggest strongly they get an education, and you can start out very easily, even here at UNL, going into the, you know, depending on what type of an industry you want to go into, but just go into the animal science program. It's much like going to med school. You go to med school and then you decide what your specialty is going to be. And I think you have to get in a program like that that's dedicated towards educating you and giving you a good feel for the all-around possibilities for education and for employment. And then you'll kind of figure out what you do best. I went to school, I was going to be a banker. For a while, I wanted to be a coach and a teacher. I went to school and I took one accounting class and I said, wow, this is so easy, it's so much fun, I am intrigued by this. I became a CPA. I mean, you'll find out what's going to happen, but you need to first of all pursue that education. And I guarantee you, if you have the desire to have any type of an occupation within the horse industry, they'll find a place for you. If you're a very talented person with an open mind and very progressive, they will find a place for you.
To move on, okay, now I got my sound back on. A little bit again who those presenters were. The first gentleman was, he is heavily involved in the horse industry, shows horses, and he is a banker. The second person with a cowboy hat on, if you're not familiar, that's Jim Brinkman, who's with Pitzer Ranch. His father was Howard Pitzer. They had Two-Eyed Jack, and so he's lifelong in the horse industry, a lot of roping stock horses and ranching types of things. And the last person is Mike Hirschberger, who's involved in a different level. He's very heavily in the pleasure horse thing. He's had horses that have competed very successfully at the very upper level, the World Show and things like that. So just to tell you a little bit about who some of those folks are, So they do have, and Mike is also a CPA, so he does have a pretty good background in those types of things. So real quick, I'm going to touch on a few things. So you've been to college, you've gotten this degree, you want to touch in the horse business or the horse industry. So how are you going to stay connected? What are you going to do? All right. Here's some options and things that you might look at. So if you've had a major that has an emphasis, you've got an equine degree that's kind of ag business related, and you have had things such as business, economics, but general animal science or things related to the horses, here's a variety of different kinds of things that a person might do with a degree such as that. Now, as you look through this list, some you might work 100% with horses. Some might be that a portion of your business is within the horse world. And that's what you're going to find with a lot of these types of things. And part of it's going to be regional, depending on where you're at, the degree of what you can do in the horse business versus having as a portion of what you actually do. A degree in equine-related master's degree, okay, and you would take courses in business and economics, might be equine or an agricultural-related field. These are things you could do with that type of degree, such as the last individual that spoke as far as become a CPA. I've had other individuals that look to go to law school. Again, your career path might be part horses. It might be 100% horses. Our CPA person, probably about 30% of his business is all with horse operations. The remainder is a variety of different kinds of things. So that's something that a person can think about. If you end up with a degree that you basically kind of equine production and management, here's all the different kinds of things that you might consider doing with those in extension, the breed associations, therapeutic riding, marketing, different kinds of things that a person might go and do with a degree such as that. If you have a chosen path that you really want to be a breeding farm manager, okay, and that's really what you're focused on, then yes, college does help because you can go into equine science, have degrees in business, communication, computer science, and all those types of things are going to help you quite a bit in the breeding business. If you have a degree that's very science concentrated, pre-veterinary medicine, and you maybe or maybe do not get into vet school, you can still end up with a bachelor's degree going into research, maybe a veterinary assistant. DVMs, it's interesting to see because not all of them are in private practice. Some of them are consultants or in research. So there are a variety of different options with a veterinarian degree, even outside of going into private practice. Should a person choose to go on to an advanced degree, a graduate school with a master's or a PhD, different positions that they might get into could be involved in research, maybe training, extension, nutritional kinds of things, management systems, education. So there's a variety of different options out there for folks with those types of degrees. Here's something that came from the Colorado State University, and for years they really were the first institution that offered a 4-year degree in equine science, and they did a survey from their students to look to see kind of where those students were at. And these numbers are a little bit old, but when I've surveyed our own graduates, they really are not that different. And so you can see those students, really the bulk of them were in some type of ag-related business, and really professional studies. So this would be ones going into vet school, master's degree, and those types of things. Animal production, where they're going back and training, breeding horses. At that time, this was very strong, and a variety of different miscellaneous types of things was only about 10% of them. So this is not a big, and at this time, the educational side of it was a small percent. I would think that if you redid the study, them going into education is probably going to be a bit larger because there are many more opportunities to go in to teach in education in the horse area now than what there were 10 or 15 years ago. I'll go ahead and address this one question because I'm just pretty much done. I think I'm about to the last slide here. And she asks about our horse-related college programs seeing decline in enrollment. And actually, for my experience here, is they really are not. Even though the horse industry is struggling just like many things are, it doesn't mean because, and this is a very good example with this last slide, it doesn't mean that you're going to work 100% in the horse area. Those students like their horses. They want to come to school. They want to have some contact with them. but they're ending up with degrees that do allow them to do a variety of different kinds of things. And so we really haven't seen a decline in the enrollment in our horse option or horse area. If anything, we see more youth, more young adults interested in it. And so it's interesting to see how they go. But again, many of them are going to vet school or different kind of degrees, and they're using the horses as a portion of what they're doing. So again, flexibility to me is the key to success, keeping your options open, keeping things broad, and making sure that you really do your homework so you know what you're getting into when you go to a school, that it meets the needs, it does what you want it to do. And I think that really is very, very important for a person to do. Here's one last thing that you can have that I'll give to you. I'm not going to go there, but it's easy to remember. It's an information source of horseschools.com. And it's one that is a website listing that has many of the 2- and 4-year horse schools and related programs. It's a really good place for you to go and do a little bit of research and see what kind of schools are out there, what your options are, and those types of things. And it's a good resource to go and look around. Okay. Few last things I think we have in here. And maybe I should let Amanda go ahead and address some of the things at the very end. So if you guys have some more questions, we'll be on here for a bit. Go ahead and type them in and we'll try to address them as best we can. And Amanda, if you want to talk about your
Thank you. That sounds great. Yeah, you can go ahead and continue thinking of questions, but I just want to mention a couple of things. First and foremost, thank you so much, Dr. Anderson, for your presentation tonight. And thanks to all of you for participating and listening in, and we hope you got some useful information. Later this week, you will receive a survey, an invitation to a survey by email, and it would really help us out if you would just take a few minutes. It's very short, and answer that survey for us. And we also wanted to let you know that our next webcasts are Biosecurity on the Horse Farm in February, and that's with Dr. Betsy Green from the University of Vermont, and that will give you some tips on protecting your horses and barn from disease. And then in March, we will have a presentation on gastric ulcers, prevention and treatment. So go ahead and register for those online, and you might want to find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter so you can hear more up-to-date information about upcoming events and special promotions. And remember that this webcast was recorded and will be uploaded to our website by the end of the week. You can send us your comments and suggestions to info@myhorseuniversity.com or find us online at myhorseuniversity.com.